What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Missing Crypto Show. I hope everyone is doing well today. I am your host, Randi Hipper. Welcome to the channel. I am feeling really good. I'm feeling the zesty vibes. If you are feeling the good vibes, make sure to smash the like, subscribe, share the stream out with friends so more people could join in and hear the alpha that is going to be dropped today. And hi to everyone in the chat. It's good to see you all. I see so much hype in there. And I'm hyped to hang out with my friend, Bitboy, aka Ben Armstrong. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing really well. A lot of fast moving parts these days, but a lot of interviews and a lot of talks. But I think my channel has been built for this moment. This is a time that we are out here doing action and not just talking about crypto, and it's been real exciting. Absolutely.
And even the last time you were on the show, we were talking about you starting a bill, and it was very pro crypto. What happened after the show that led to you going viral on pretty much everything and having like song montages made of you like going what happened, Ben?
I went super viral like 9 times over the last 6 weeks. It's been crazy. And I think we talked about the bill, and we got really exciting news. We officially are registered. We got the funding to get registered, so it is coming. We should be public by the end of this month, but the registration was the tough part in the funding. So we've got the initial funding, and so everybody's going to find out what this bill is now for sure. Really excited. Hopefully by the end of the month, or maybe even sooner. So what happened is we've got this bill, and we're super excited about it. And I send it off to Brett Harrison at FTX for funding, and SBF as well. We sent it to both of them, and Brett Harrison came back to us and said, hey, we actually think this is pretty good. We're going to forward this to our policy team. And so they forward the bill to their policy team, and Mark Wetjen, he's a former CFTC commissioner, he sits on it for like 3 weeks. And it's weird in the policy world. You don't do that.
No.
They basically held on to our bill and sabotaged us to slow it down, because they were panicked by what they saw in our bill, because our bill is very pro decentralization. It's very pro, it's very pro like crypto, like it's about consensus. It's about coming to decisions together. It's not about one person coming in and hammering regulation the way they want it to be. And that's what SBF wanted. So when they saw what our bill was, it's the total opposite of what they wanted, because, a centralized exchange, they're going to want to have control and power. And so in the meantime of sending them the bill and them sabotaging us, SBF goes to work on this DC CPA and starts getting in with a lot of the politicians that we had gotten in with, that were going to support our bill. And now they're letting him write the language of the overall act. Ours was supposed to go in as an amendment to that DC CPA, which I hear, by the way, is like almost completely dead now, because it was almost 100% pass. But because of all the FTX stuff, I've heard it's less than 30% chance that that's actually going to pass now at all in any form. They're going to have to go back to the drawing boards. When Elizabeth Warren's coming out with her own bill, and of course we have ours and things like that. So what happens is one of our main political backers, you'll find out who it is soon enough, calls Mark Wetjen and says, hey, what's going on with this bill here? And Mark Wetjen says, yeah, actually, we're not going to be doing this. We're not going to fund this. We want you to come work for us, leave Bitboy's team, and we're going to do a federal bit license, which you're in New York, or New Jersey, what
horrible.
The bit license is. It's horrible. That's what Sam wanted to do. And so it's so crazy, because we started talking about this on September 26th, I think. That was the day. So September 16th, I got the phone call on what they were doing. Took me about a week and a half to really figure out how to position and do this right. So September 26th on our live stream, Brett Harrison quits FTX US that morning.
Became an advisor.
No, he quit.
Is he fully gone?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's not I'm not going to touch that subject right now, but that's going to become a big story down the road. But the fact is that, what happens is he steps down, and then I feel emboldened at that point. He follows me on Twitter, and then I feel emboldened to talk about the federal bit license, explain exactly what they were doing. And, people thought it was crazy. Bitboy's just running off in the mouth, blah, 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 blah. Nobody knew SBF was working on regulation. Nobody knew this. I mean, they knew that he had some meetings in Washington here and there. They didn't know he was working on that bill. He changed the language on what they were doing because we front ran him. And we were talking about, he wanted to come out against decentralization. He wanted to come against peer-to-peer transactions. Those were the two main concerns that we had. And so he comes up with his political manifesto a few weeks later, and he says, by the way, make sure you know I am for decentralization. I am for peer-to-peer transactions. This is the exact reaction to what we were saying he was against. but all the language was against that. And then he goes on the debate with Eric Voorhees, right? And Eric Voorhees destroys it. That was really the beginning of the descent of Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. I mean, you can go back to when we sent the bill. That triggered stuff.
Yeah.
It was really that debate that made him look like an idiot, and he lost control of the situation, and he mentioned licensure.
Yeah, I remember even at that point, Sam put out like this really weird cryptic thread about his political manifesto where he kind of tried to summarize it in a thread, but he was talking about how you needed to pass special KYC tests. So it was beyond just regular uploading your passport or license, whatever. He wanted you to pass a test. And if you didn't pass a certain test, you weren't allowed to buy from the exchanges, period. And you were locked out from the ecosystem as a whole. So what was this really going to do? And especially they held your bill, which is crazy. Yeah. So, wow. So what happens next?
So what happens next is, he starts bringing up the licensure, and people are like, wait, Ben's been talking about this for a month now. For a month I was talking about this. Nobody listened to me. Everybody's like, oh, he's just, doing for clicks, blah, 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 blah. And, it started out as pissed. They tried to steal my person. But then it was like, federal bill license, this is horrible for crypto. This is a bad person. It does not have best interests at heart. And all of a sudden, all Sam's enemies started reaching out to me and giving me information, and because they realized I knew what was going on, and somebody that would champion them and listen to them. And we started bringing those people on the show. We started exposing a lot of the things that they were doing to projects, and it's jaw-dropping what they were doing. See, this is what people don't even get. We're so focused on the retail money that was gone and the money trail of how this insolvency happened, which I kind of know, but, or I do know. A lot of people are still in the dark with it. But the fact is, we're still not even really talking about the project side, what they did as a predatory business on projects that have been working for 10 years in some cases for their coins, only for Alameda to come in and partner with them and then extort them and destroy them in a matter of 48 hours. They did it consistently. And so it's one of these things where you really start understanding the type of people that were running Alameda, the type of people that were running FTX. And, if Sam ever had any chance of getting any compassion from anybody, he was going to have to basically come out and be completely honest and show remorse and, basically point and say, well, there's bigger forces at play here. My parents were behind this. Dan Friedberg was behind it. But he didn't do that. He's been extremely dishonest, saying that he didn't know this, he didn't know that. It's weird. 2 months ago, he knew everything. He knew enough to be able to single-handedly dictate crypto regulation. Today, he doesn't even know where his own money is. Like, can we be for real about this?
100%.
He has really lost any goodwill he potentially had. And I still can't believe, people like Kevin O'Leary, he get blasted today, still coming out and saying, in favor of him. And,
oh my gosh.
I look at, Rand from Crypto Banner. I mean, he's a bit of a Kevin O'Leary apologist. I don't know why he loves Kevin O'Leary so much, but Rand is trying to be kind of in the middle and be like, well, how can we fix this? How can FTX be made whole? And I kind of understand why he would want to do that. The money is gone. The money's gone, guys. This is not getting fixed. If you're on FTX, your best hope is probably 15% of your money back, maybe. And that's maybe a really big stretch because there's a lot of secured creditors that are being, they're still anonymous right now, but we're going to find there's big money they owe money to that are going to get in line before you. And so, the best chance for people to get money back with FTX is going to be, the fact that FTX was embezzling customer funds to real estate properties, and they were buying it all the way up until, after they even knew they were insolvent. So maybe some of that real estate money, it might be $1 billion all around the world, potentially. Could be. We know it's probably at least 300 million just in, the Bahamas and the United States, some in Dubai. So that's a little bit of a breadcrumb people can follow. But overall, what we have to take away from this is how do we prevent this from happening again? Yes, we want to hold Sam accountable. We're organizing a giant protest. We're going to go down to the Bahamas at some point and, hopefully see if we can get him arrested. We're going to have people filling out police reports and things like that. So, can't give away exactly when that's going to be, but people need to start paying attention. It's not about Sam going to jail. It is, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's about showing these people that might have these ideas to do this again. No, we're going to hold you accountable. We're rejecting this out of our space. 100%.
I think at this point, it's pretty clear there's a little bit of a war. I guess I should say, between us and the theoretical them. And, we're at a point where it's like, okay, we know that a lot of people that have pulled something like this in the traditional financial markets, they were arrested the next day. They were in jail. They were scrutinized all over the TV. But somehow with SBF, this is probably the biggest scam in history, period, regardless of crypto. And he's just sitting there tweeting like, oh yeah, like maybe I'll come hang out with you, or I'll select which shows to go on. Because even when you said you were going to get that interview with him 2 weeks from when you were in the Bahamas, he rugged you, man.
He did. Yeah, he set me up. He set me up for that.
And went on a press tour after that.
Yep. Look, there's only two people out here asking hard questions, me and CoffeeZilla. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that, people can laugh and they can blah, Bitboy, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to get my questions answered one way or the other. And I've got some good ways that they're going to be answered. And it's, he's going to wish it was me that was the one that was asking. But I can guarantee you the questions I have are going to be asked of him. And people don't understand how deep this goes. And I think this is really what it is he just continues to incriminate himself. And, CoffeeZilla had some dead to rights with some questioning. He had him on with commingling of funds the other night. And he just continues to incriminate himself. Why would the Department of Justice come in and arrest him now when he just keeps giving them more and more and more? He's so unpredictable. He has no idea who he really is. Like, he thinks, I guess, in his mind that he is this mastermind, catch me if you can, Leonardo DiCaprio, that, nobody's going to catch up to him. Damn, we all know. Like, everybody knows that you commingled funds. Everybody knows that you basically, destroyed projects with predatory business practices. Like, we know all this. Let's stop talking about whether or not it happened. Let's talk about how it happened and figure it out. And most of that is going to be done in front of hearings, in front of judges and lawyers, and the truth is going to come out.
He's going to have to. I mean, he can't really lie under oath, right?
Right. Well, he has before. He already has. He already lied on a hearing. I guess it was maybe 6 months ago when he said,
wow,
no, we definitely do not use customer funds to leverage trade and make our, he's dead to rights in a hearing saying that.
Wow, what a joke. What a joke. And I remember you putting out a video saying that you were getting rid of your FTT, you were getting rid of Sol, and you were going to purchase some other bag, swap it out. What were the warning signs you saw with that? And what do you think of Solana now? Because that was one of the projects that Alameda especially was heavily involved in.
Yeah, so the point is, when it comes to us getting rid of that, people, it's so funny, the small brainness of the internet sometimes, that we were really bullish on FTT last year. Duh. Yeah. Why would we not have been? What, if you look at the empire they were building, we didn't know. Nobody knew, except for a small handful of people probably, that like the projects like Reef. Reef tried to tell us a year and a half ago, but nobody would listen. There's very few people that knew what was going on the back end. Or had even clues that there were red flags or, some problems. And now, of course, everybody would say, well, we saw the red flags. Well, why didn't you say something? Right? So, there's a clip of me being bullish of FTT last year. Well, guys, you take in new information and you change your mind. So what happens is that when I find out they're doing this federal bit license, I'm like, I'm out on this. This is evil. Like, what Sam is trying to do with a federal bit license is destroy crypto innovation in America. Like, literally. And so what happens is we start talking to people about the business practices, because that was really where we were focused on. We were not even looking at the customer funds, really. We were looking at the market making side of it and the fact that they were counterfeiting coins and they were creating fake markets. And I know people really want to kind of dice down, I did say the word, we were working on the story around the insolvency. And I later said I don't think they're insolvent. Well, the story of the insolvency really begins with the fake market, with the market making, with the counterfeiting of coins.
Yeah.
We didn't realize at the time that's what we were looking at. But looking back in hindsight, it's real obvious to see that's what it was. I didn't think they were insolvent. I thought that the market making was basically at some point the jig was going to be up and it was going to stop and it was going to collapse coins. I didn't realize that there were no customer funds on there anymore. Nobody could have foresaw that happening. So we started working on, on that story with Gretchen Morgensen of NBC and looking at that stuff. when everything really started unfolding. And I think what people are going to find is that when when the story comes out about the whistleblower and how all this occurred, people are going to find out that like it was us sending this bill to FTX that really started triggering this entire thing. It's just very fascinating how it happened. So the point is, when I found out they were doing federal bit licenses, there were bad people, I'm out on these coins. And then I started thinking, well, holy crap, like Solana, everybody knows it was pumping them. Like everyone knows that the VCs pump Solana from the inside. You had on the All In podcast, Chamath and his boys there, like laughing about dumping on retail investors when they were pumping Solana. And it's like, yeah, of course, that's what they were doing from the inside. Everyone in the industry knows it. And then they got, tech on the side that obviously, you can pause it whenever you want. And there's, some stuff out there about them money laundering while the blockchain was down and yada, yada. I'm not going to get into that too much right now.
Wow.
But we made a decision to completely move out of those coins from a philosophical standpoint. So what happens is we move out of the coins, we start talking to more projects, and then all of a sudden we really start seeing like, oh, here comes the balance sheet from CoinDesk that got released to them. Ooh, like maybe this market thing goes a little bit further. And we started warning people on October 29th to take their funds out because at some point it was going to break. We just thought it was the other side because we're so focused on the project side, the market making side that was going to break. But what was happening is they were creating these synthetic versions of coins, not futures, like actual spot coins in some cases. And they were inflating the supply of their liquidity pools. And what would happen is people would short because there was like a 99% short to long ratio over the summer on FTX. You can't make stuff up. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense on a market. And there it was right in front of everybody. And we were just staring at it and nobody noticed. They would inflate. And then people would make profits on a short and they would come and they would actually withdraw the real assets. So over time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. So over time, what would happen is, let's say there were 100,000 Ethereum on the site. I don't know what they had, but let's say there was 100,000 Ethereum. Well, let's say they decide, you know what, let's go ahead and throw 5,000 Ethereum synthetically that we don't actually have just in the liquidity pool let's dump the price a little bit. And so people went on their shorts because they're trying to attract the VC companies and the hedge funds come use FTX as their main exchange. And so what would happen is it would go down. They would add the coins. People would withdraw profits. Well, now let's say people withdrew 1,000 ETH of profits. So you had 100,000, you added 5,000. So now there's 105,000, 5,000 fake, 100,000 real. Now someone withdraws 1,000 real ones from the liquidity pool. Now you've got 104,000 total. Now you got to replace that 1,000 that you just missed. And now you've got 6,000 fake.
Wow.
And that's how the insolvency holes really started to grow, which led them to have to make, once again, people laughed 6 weeks ago when I told people FTX and Sam were behind every single crash and collapse this entire year. Now guess what happens this week? They're being investigated for their role in Terra Luna's unpacking. What happened is they had to make such massive 9-figure moves to fill their insolvency holes in the short end to try to get to the finish line to complete the Voyager acquisition. If they complete the Voyager acquisition and they complete the Celsius acquisition, then they might have enough funds to be able to actually get maybe Circle or another company, and they just start covering it up so that people can't follow the money to realize how insolvent they are because they're bringing on a lot of real assets and they're just assuming everybody's not going to withdraw at one time. And that was the goal, was to complete those and basically build a Ponzi scheme into something that became too big to fail, like Tether, for instance. Tether's, in my opinion, is too big to fail. And it started really sketchy, got into shadow banking, was definitely insolvent at certain points, but they faked it till they made it. I think now they do have the real assets to back it up, and I think the Tether story is really overblown. Today, there's a lot of problems with the history. That's what FTX was basically trying to do to create, all kinds of different revenue streams for, political donations and, power and manipulation and, things, definitely not philanthropy, because I know someone who met with Joe Bankman, who was in charge of approving their philanthropical things they supported, which was pretty much only political. And, it's just one of these things where you look at it, you're just like, yeah, this whole thing was for people to get rich, for people to dump on retail investors, for political manipulation and power, money laundering. It's just insane that this was going on right under our noses and nobody knew.
It's so gross, Ben.
It is disgusting.
I can't believe everything that even happened with SBF, FTX, because, it surprises me that no one paying attention, no one knew about this, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing down. I mean, you lit this fire. Then even CZ went on Twitter, was like, okay, maybe I have to get rid of and exit our FTT position. And like you said, they were just like kind of faking their markets. And then once everyone started, selling FTT, we really saw how fast it all crumbled. It was within 2 days that FTT was like basically near zero.
It was a few hours, really. I mean, like a few hours, it dumped 80% or something like that.
I cannot believe this. When do you think they wanted to acquire Celsius and try to fix all these issues? But how would they even do that if they didn't have the money to begin with? Which is so confusing, because even I don't know if you heard a few days ago, people came out and said that they wanted to do $100 million deal with Taylor Swift. How would they have paid her?
They would have gone and saw it. It would have been a contract, and they would have paid her over time, and basically they would have gone insolvent in the middle of this, the same way they did with the naming rights for the Miami Stadium or the Miami Arena. So. That would have been really interesting if Taylor would have been sponsored by FTX. She really, came.
She dodged a bullet.
Yeah,
Saved by
Sam
the
is
bell.
the anti-hero. Taylor's the hero here. But the fact is that there were a lot of people looking the other way on stuff. Here's a great example to kind of sum up how some of the ways they were able to do this. Number one, obviously their flywheel tokens, their Serum, their STEPN, their FTT. They were able to inflate the amount of net worth that they had to make it look like they had the money to do this stuff first, right? But then if you look on a little more practical level, if you see what was going on in the Bahamas and how they were the regulator down there that's the equivalent of the SEC, the equivalent of the SEC in the Bahamas, the FPC or whatever it is, they actually, and we have documents of this, we have evidence of this, I've seen the physical papers, they overlooked the minimum capital requirements for FTX to start an exchange in the Bahamas. They wanted to attract the business there because they were paying people off down there for different things. He bought a bunch of iPads for the police department and yada, yada, yada. Everything was a deal. Everything was a deal down there.
I remember them bringing that up, that he was very philanthropic down in the Bahamas. I remember that.
Well, that is the type of philanthropy they would do. They would pay people off that were local. We went to there was a ball field next to the FTX headquarters, and this lady came over flying in a van, y'all can't be here, she had on a key card. She definitely worked for FTX. She was just there for the ball field. They gave a bunch of money to that ball field, for sure. It was a nice ball field in the middle of the Bahamas, next to FTX. So you can do the math on that. That's the type of greasing of palms that they would do with their money, not actually trying to help people. So we definitely want to be clear on that. But the idea is they overlooked the capital requirements because FTX didn't actually have any money. So they're thinking, oh, look at their balance sheet. Yeah, you don't need to put a bunch of money in the bank. It's fine. We know you got money. It was all smoke and mirrors the entire time.
Wow.
And so that's kind of one of the ways they were able to do this. Just it's kind of like the Tinder Swindler. Have you watched the Tinder Swindler?
I think I heard of it.
It's a great Netflix documentary. It's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And what would happen is he would start out to scam somebody. He would be using basically his last girlfriend's money. He would be getting loans from her.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so the first time that this girl would meet this guy is on his private jet, thinking it's his private jet. Well, he's living on the last girlfriend's money that he stole from her to be able to present this image that he's really rich. So he presents this image he's really rich, and why wouldn't she let him borrow money if he was in a tough spot and running from his enemies like he would say he would do all the time? The appearance of being rich has something to it that automatically makes people think that you've got the money to do whatever. And I can tell you from having, now I'm not, a billionaire or anything, but, from having money, sometimes there's a thin line between being very poor and having a lot of money in the bank, because the bank doesn't want you to spend your money either way. So like I run into problems where I can't withdraw cash from the bank sometimes. Or like hit a limit because I use the same bank that the Anna Delvey used in New York. But speaking of frauds, but the whole thing is like they won't let me spend my own money sometimes, and it's really frustrating. When that occurs. If I got in a situation where I had to pay for dinner, and let's say I was out with a bunch of people from crypto, and I was like, no, I got dinner. My card gets declined because they're really tight on fraudulent transactions in my bank. Like for whatever reason, when my kids get their Nintendo Wii monthly pass or whatever, like it causes it to freeze the card. It's weird.
They always do that. I think it's to like give them a little bit more time to process all the funds.
Probably.
That's my little conspiracy.
So the point is sometimes I can't spend my own money, and it's really frustrating. If we're at dinner and I tell anybody there, I say, look, hey, dinner's like $1,000. I got the money, obviously. My card didn't go through. Now I keep 5 or 6 cards, so this doesn't ever happen. But how likely do you think somebody would be to give me the money? Very likely.
100%.
Because they think I've got the money. And that's the way that FTX was able to keep this going for so long, is everybody just assumed they had the money. They had it on a balance sheet that they showed, look how much FTT we have. When we need more, we just print more.
Also, I see so many people are watching. Smash the likes if you can. There's, also he had his parents behind him, which I think definitely helped politically motivate their move to the Bahamas. Because I don't think if he was just some rando that they would just overlook, him not having the capital to be able to open up a business in the Bahamas. I think definitely his parents had to be involved to a high degree. And even
his parents are the puppet masters. His parents are behind the whole thing.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, Sam obviously knew everything, because even Dave Portnoy posted that when he was sponsored by FTX a few years ago, Sam wanted to get on the phone with Dave just because, they were doing an ad together. They were sponsoring him. So Sam knew a lot of stuff. Where I think his parents were mostly doing a lot of this stuff, especially with the real estate and everything like that, and a lot of where the money was moving. This couldn't have been just him.
So no, definitely. Okay, so I believe what I'm about to say for 100%. I believe I know more about what was going on at FTX than Sam does. Like I really do believe I do. And I think there's a lot of people that know more about what was going on there than he did. That didn't mean he's without blame. That didn't mean that he had a huge hand in all this. But for instance, the thing with the philanthropy with his dad, Joe Bankman. Mm-hmm. Joe Bankman was in charge of approving, all these philanthropic deals. Well, I kind of think Sam really thought, because, his parents kept him doped up on all these uppers and stuff like that as a kid, and, kept him brainwashed, I believe, completely brainwashed to believe some of the, ridiculous stuff that he was saying. Like, oh, we want to give away all these billions of dollars, but we never did it. It's all talking points, and it's all about image, right? Well, I think when it came to philanthropy, it was very telling when I talked to this woman who had a meeting with Joe Bankman about supporting her nonprofit, because they had a program where you would go in and talk to them. He was only fascinated by political donations. He did not care about a real, actual cause.
It's messed up.
That would have a good benefit to an organization that needed it, that was serving good. I don't know if Sam knew that his dad was only approving those, because he was detached from that. The philanthropy angle at the top and a lot of the political dealings was coming from Joe and Barbara. So I don't know how much. Now, he definitely knew some, because obviously he was number 2 donor to Joe Biden. He was sending out money for pandemic, trying to help with the pandemic.
Yes, prevent the next pandemic or whatever he was saying. That was crazy.
Oh gosh, yeah. So
it's like how are you into science? Like you're a crypto guy, no? You're making like political and scientific donations. It's very weird.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was all for power and influence, and but I don't know how much he knew on the day-to-day on exactly how that approval process was working for these different philanthropical companies. I think this lady met with him several times to try to get approval for something simple. And I think that the whole thing was the parents kept it so locked up, along with Dan Friedberg. Dan Friedberg is the absolute pivotal point of this entire story. He's basically in with what's it called? Moonbank? Is that what they call it now? It was Farmington Bank. They renamed it. The one that's a little like one-room bank in the middle of Washington. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't, actually.
The guy who
I got to do research into that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's another rabbit hole.
I have a murder board that looks like nothing you've ever seen. It's insane. I've got like 37 gigantic stories we could be digging at. Not all having to do with FTX, but a lot of it. The guy who created that Moonstone, that's what it's called, Moonstone Bank. He was the creator of the cartoon Inspector Gadget.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, they created this bank, and it's in Washington. It's a town of 150 people, I think, and they average like a few murders a year.
That's so shady.
Very shady. I've been told it's very sketchy to go out there. It's near the Idaho border, and it's very weird what's going on in Moonstone Bank. Well, Dan Friedberg is the one that's all associated with that. He's the one that got all that set up. Do you know who Dan Friedberg is?
I heard of him. I don't know too much about him. If you want to give some backstory.
Yeah. So we call the parents the puppet masters, and Dan Friedberg's the architect. They're the three key components of this for 100%. There's several. Nishad was all up in this. I think one of the main developers or something like that. Don't know his technical title. Obviously, Sam Chewbacca and Caroline, they all played a role. Gary Wang was a guy who played a role. Amy Wu and John Wu, I don't know if they're related, but John Wu of Alameda and Amy Wu, they're all involved in this as well. They knew what was happening. There are some people that were kind of high up that we don't believe knew what was happening. I'm not ready to come out and say who those people are yet. But you start looking and you start realizing like there's some key players here that you just don't know anything about. And Dan Friedberg, first primary, biggest role in this whole thing. If you go back to, I think it was 2007, and you look at what happened in the online poker world, poker was blowing up online in the early 2000s, and then it got hit by what was called Black Friday, where in the United States, the regulators came down, so you could not play online poker in America unless you live in Nevada or whatever it was, and they shut all these sites down, and people lost a lot of money. They had money locked up. Well, it was discovered that, there was a regulation for these. There was a company called Ultimate Bets, and they ran a $40 million poker scheme. And here's how it worked. And guess who was behind it? That would be Dan Friedberg. He's a lawyer.
No way.
Yeah,
That's wild.
He was the general counsel for FTX. Sam has said he knew his past, but he thought he was a good guy.
Oh, of course.
Just to put this in perspective, a $40 million poker scandal, while that, fails to compare to the billions of dollars in the crypto world, a $40 million poker scandal is gigantic in the world of poker. It's hard to really wrap your mind around how much money $40 million is in the poker world. Take Phil Hellmuth, for instance. I think his all-time earnings are like $20 million, and he's played forever, and he's won like 15 gigantic tournaments. He made $20 million his entire career and $40 million in one shot in a few year period. Now, here's what happens. Dan Friedberg was actually the lawyer for Phil Hellmuth. Now, Phil Hellmuth doesn't have anything to do with this. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. Phil Hellmuth gets approached by Ultimate Bets about doing promotion for them. Dan Friedberg, his lawyer, says, I like this Ultimate Bets. Let me go get involved in this. So he becomes the attorney for Ultimate Bets. And so what happens is he creates this shell company architecture to where you can't even figure out like which company owns what. There were multiple sites that they were using, at least 2 sites that they were using that I know of to do this scam. And it's just, you couldn't really follow the money. When there's all these shell companies, it's hard to follow the money. Guess what they did at FTX? The exact same thing. If you look at their property holding companies, that's another really interesting thing. One of these property holding companies was started October 19th, Alameda Property Holdings. They weren't real good at naming them to make them mysterious. But they were embezzling money like as soon as a couple weeks before the insolvency. So the idea is you have a shell company, but the key is you got to have a scam. Where's the scam? They called it God mode. And so what they would do on Ultimate Bets is they had a software that they could run that they could see the other players' cards.
Oh, that's Absolutely. Just cheater to the top degree. That's horrible.
Yes. And so a lot of people, they sit there and they say like, well, that's, all the players on the site were, losing money because of it. No, they had even a more like diabolical plan. Phil Hellmuth and Mike Matusow. Mike Matusow is another big poker player. I played poker, won the World Series of Poker, got 135th place in the main event. I love poker. I know all these people, not personally, but, followed these people growing up. Mike Matusow, he's known as the Mouth. He might be the only person that talks more than me. And, Mike Matusow and Phil Hellmuth, they would just get calls randomly from the Ultimate Bets team. And they'd say, hey, Mike, it's Sunday afternoon. You want to play heads up? Just me versus you? You'd say, sure. And so they'd play, and Mike Massow wouldn't know that the guy
they could see the other cards.
That was the entire thing. They were targeting people that had a lot of money, like professional poker players. And of course, they wouldn't take it all in one round. They would let them win a little bit, but they would know when they were doing big bets they would know when they were ahead every single time by the time they got to the river. And so what would happen is over however long, like Mike Massow lost $1 million to these people. They were preying on the people that they were using to promote the website. They were stealing all the money from. And so they called it God mode. Well, you know what's really interesting? When you think about Dan Friedberg being in charge of FTX, oh, wait, they set up the exact same system where Alameda could see everybody's trades. It's the exact same thing. One was cards, one was trades.
And they could counter trade.
That's
horrible.
They could liquidation hunt, stop loss hunt. They saw where your stop losses were. They saw where your take profits were. They saw where Three Arrows Capital liquidation point was. They could see everything. They knew exactly how to get down to these levels and hit these numbers and come back up. With Three Arrows Capital. Well, those guys want to talk to me. I've been told. So I'm going to talk to those guys pretty soon. Their side of the story.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they got a story to tell as well. And the point is that why do you think it wicked right down to their liquidation point? Now, I don't think it was necessarily on FTX, but it went straight down their liquidation point and bounced back up. And that's when we got the first bottom. Went down a little bit lower, obviously, after FTX fell. But weird. And then it just held right around 20 right after that because they were using stop loss hunting and liquidations hunting as they were using it as war. It was like trading war. They were
basically.
Yeah. They could see everything. They knew everybody's numbers. Okay. So now we've got two things that are like smoking gun. Like, okay, obviously same scam. Well, then you get to the fail safe. And I was told a week before the FTX hack happened, that as soon as this thing went down, there was going to be a fail safe internally that was going to start destroying all the data. That's what the hack was about. The hack was not about where the money went. The money some of it went to CZ, some of it went to Vitalik, some of it went to Kraken.
Yeah, that was so weird.
It wasn't though, because it wasn't about where the money was going. It was about what the money was hiding. It was about the data internally that they were letting go of when they were moving the funds out of these wallets. And so they were deleting the records left behind by the money trail. And so sure enough, of course, when it started happening, I was like, Sam is doing this because I know Sam has hacked Cover Protocol. Sam has had several hacks himself to where he's stolen 9 figures from people. People don't know that. But what happens is that I'm tweeting it. I'm like, yeah, Sam's stealing this stuff. And then it hits me. And a guy from New Genesis, Hussein, hits me up. He's like, I told you this was going to happen. Go look back at those messages. The failsafe. Ultimate Bets had the same thing built in. It also had a failsafe that deleted everything left behind, so you couldn't go see the records. Well, what happened is the main difference between what happened here with FTX and what happened with Ultimate Bets is with Ultimate Bets, the audio recordings of Dan Friedberg admitting God mode and admitting that they stole all the money and admitting that they were trying to negotiate numbers to make people go away, right? That came 7 years later. The FTX, we have all that in real time. I have audio recordings of Dan Friedberg admitting to counterfeiting coins, FTX, Japan, talking about the same thing, synthetic assets, destroying these projects, dumping it to zero, going like extorting people. We have all that in real time now. So we don't have to wait 7 years later. All the evidence is there and we've got a package that's got a lot of the stuff in it. And so you have those three things. You have the architecture of the companies. You have the God mode where you can see everything. You have the deletion of data that's left behind to be able to conceal the records, which, like, if you try to go look up the longs or shorts ratios on FTX, you can't find them. They don't exist anymore. The API's gone. You literally can't look this stuff up other than screenshots.
That's so wild. They wiped everything squeaky clean. It's like they literally went into a room, lit a match, threw it in there, and then when people came to like extinguish it,
look at the money. Look at the money. Look at it. Look at the money. That's what they said. While they're lighting it on fire, They're directing, look at the money it went to Vitalik. Oh, is he involved in this? It was misdirection, smoke and mirrors. So then you go with the fourth thing that Ultimate Bets and I believe FTX is going to have in common, which is one common patsy that's going to take the fall for everything, and that is going to be SBF. At Ultimate Bets, Dan Friedberg didn't even lose his license as a lawyer in the state of New York, even though on camera admitting what they did.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So he never got arrested. Nothing happened to him. So who did he have to donate to get a free pass is my question. So who was he tied to? And then obviously the parents liked him and everyone at FTX liked him. So they recruited him. They're like, oh, he's perfect. So is he not being held accountable at all right now? Is he like Dan is free?
He's a free bird.
Yeah, he's a free bird.
Right now he is. I believe. Was that? Yeah. So what happened is that I think he's already flipped. He's a cockroach. This guy's a cockroach. He survives. We believe Caroline's flipping or is already flipped.
Yeah.
Which is funny. If you go down the day that it all happened, the collapse started, I did this video where I was like, I told you, Sam, people made these little Joker memes out of it. But I told it in that video, I told Caroline, I said, Caroline, your best bet's going to be to flip. You might want to go ahead and start thinking about it. Didn't help anything that Sam's been throwing her under the bus for 2 weeks on his media tour, talking about it's all Alameda, it's not him. But I believe Dan Friedberg and Caroline Ellison are going to be the two flippers. And, Sam Trabucco's, very good chance he's going to go to prison. Very good chance SBF goes to prison. Very good chance that, I don't know, maybe I can't remember the other girl's name. Is it Constance? There's another girl that's down there in the Bahamas with SBF who worked there as well. There might be some more collateral damage. But ultimately, if you follow the Ultimate Bets model, it's frame one person for the entire thing to take the fall, have some money waiting for them when they get out eventually one day, I guess. So it was worth it to him. But Sam ain't going to go along with that plan. I mean, he's delusional, but that's what they're going to do. It's so like the parents are selling him up the river. The parents are allowing him to incriminate himself to keep them out of prison. How sick is that? That's
selfish. That's the worst parenting I've ever seen in my life. And speaking of parents, weren't SBF's parents associated with Caroline's parents and or something like that? Or Caroline's parents were somebody significant as well. Yes. And now she's chilling in New York eating our good bread and pizza. I'm mad about it.
Well, they call it the Queen of the Day tour. So they call it. It's where you intentionally send a message that you're back and you flipped. That's what that was, right? She didn't think she was not being seen in the coffee shop. That was a photo op. She was sending the message to Sam, hey, I know you're out here throwing Alameda under the bus, but I'm back and I'm in New York. I got a big lawyer. You know what that means? The next day he goes and gets the same lawyer that, Ghislaine Maxwell and El Chapo had, which they both lost their cases, Sam. I don't know if it tells you anything. But she's already flipped, I believe. And so she's in New York. It's not like she's off scot-free right now. I'm sure there's some restrictions that she's having. But ultimately this is how this stuff goes down. You got to find from the inside exactly what happened. I lost my train of thought. What was the exact question you asked?
Oh, I was just saying her parents.
So Greg Ellison, right? Greg Ellison is her dad. Greg Ellison was in charge of the economics department at MIT. Guess who was a direct report to one Greg Ellison? That would be Mr. Gary Gensler, who also was meeting with SBF for 6 months ahead of what happened here. If you go watch the price of FTT from the moment that Gary Gensler took over, it's straight up from there. So definitely does not look good for Gary Gensler right now. I think this hearing that's coming up next week, this is the death knell for him. I believe Gary Gensler by the end of January will be out. I've said he'll be out by the end of January for 6 months. And it's interesting to see the way it's playing out because that's exactly who is going to be front and center when it comes to the Senate banking hearings.
Gary Gensler is a whole other subject as well, because this dude was on TV. He was talking all this smack, did not mention FTX at all, or Sam Bankman-Fried. How could you go on TV and not even bring it up at all? I don't understand.
Because nobody asked him the questions. Because our media are coward. That's what it has to do with. You sit me down in the room in Gary Gensler, or in a room with Gary Gensler for an interview. for 5 minutes, and he'll be squirming. I ain't going to let him out. I'm not going to let him up off the mat for avoiding questions. I'm going to ask the hard questions. People don't want to ask the hard questions. Gary won't do an interview with someone who will ask a hard question.
Of course not.
Not a single one. It's so ridiculous what softballs these people get tossed. He's working for the banks, guys. It's very obvious to see what this roadmap is. Let's look at Janet Yellen, okay? Gary Gensler wants to become the Treasury Secretary. That is the open secret in Washington right now. He wants to take over for Janet Yellen, okay?
Oh, God.
Janet Yellen, the year before she became Treasury Secretary, she made, I think it was like 60% of her net worth. Don't quote me on these numbers exactly, but I believe she made, I think she was overall worth 21 million or 20 million, somewhere thereabouts. And she made $12 million in 2020 leading up to the election. She was not in office at that time. Leading up to the election, she made like $12 million just giving Zoom speeches for banks. Zoom
That is
speeches.
so sus.
Yeah.
That's so suspect. And she's the biggest insider trader of them all, apparently.
You look at what was going on there, and these banks were paying her off for influence because they knew that she was going to become the Treasury Secretary if Joe Biden won. Well, Gary Gensler is now trying to replace her. What do you think the banks are doing to Gary Gensler right now? You think they're they want to be tough on him?
No,
they're patting his pockets. They're patting his pockets right now. He's playing the playbook. He thinks the banks are going to win because he comes from a Goldman Sachs background and he knows how powerful they are. Jigs up. People know. People see. People know what's going on. This is the difference between now and 15 or 20 years ago. True. Now, people know what is happening. And thank God for Twitter and free speech right now. Because we couldn't even be having these conversations. As long as we have one platform where we are out front and center being able to give good, real information and actually debate topics that have merit instead of being chosen, debunked. What's real? What's not fact checked? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. As long as Twitter is able to be in its current form, that also forces it to where on YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram, where they've got to have a more lenient view too, or else they're going to be the next in the crosshairs. Now that we know all the stuff that's going on in the Twitter files, they all know that stuff is going on these other sites too. So they don't want that stuff to come out. So they're going to, be a little more friendly to free speech just because of what's happening on Twitter. Thank God we know what's happening. And, I can't wait to see. It's going to be a long time before we get the results of this. This is going to go on for years, guys. This isn't going to be a quick fix.
No, this is a deep hole where I don't know if we could ever really find where it starts from or who was affected or where the money really went. Because if you're thinking about it, he made political donations, millions of dollars. What did those people spend that money on? Where did this all really go? And then on top of that, you went to the Bahamas. I want to ask you, what was that moment that you were sitting there and you were like, okay, I have to actually go and do something. I'm going to the Bahamas. I'm packing my bags. I'm out of there. And you were wearing a nice shirt on the way down, so I give you props for the fashion. But, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, so what happened is we were going to be doing a fundraiser in Dubai that weekend for our bill. We had it all worked out. The problem was the World Cup was in Qatar at that point. And they just came off a big crypto event there. And it was going to be really hard to get the right people there for that weekend. And so we were going to leave the night of Thanksgiving and go to Dubai and be back at the conference in Miami on Monday, have the event. Well, it kind of fell through and it got postponed. And now we've already got the funding. So, I'm not exactly sure we'll even end up doing the fundraiser there. Still like to. I like Dubai. But what happened is that I had a thought. I told my family I was leaving on Thanksgiving. And, they were not thrilled with it. My kids love when I, watch football with them on Thanksgiving and, Black Friday, we hang out, do different stuff. And I thought to myself, well, now I'm not going to Dubai. My family's going to be so happy. And now I can stay for all day Thanksgiving. I'd say all day on Black Friday. And I can leave early on Saturday morning and still go to the Bahamas. I just go a couple days early before Miami. And I've been talking, I got security. I've got security now. So it made my wife feel a little bit better about that. She still was not thrilled when I made the decision. But, at the end of the day, she did let me go and was in support of it. And I wanted to go get the truth. Like, that's what I was after. People are so misguided with some of the things that they think about the process that I've gone through in all this. They think, he went down there for clicks. Did we know it was going to blow up on Twitter? Yeah, of course we know it's going to blow up on Twitter. I mean, duh, we're down there, Bitboy the bounty hunter, but that's not what we went down there to do. I didn't go down there to be a bounty hunter. I went down there to find the truth of what was really happening. Nobody got inside the Albany. There have been some people that have gone down there to check it out, but nobody had actually got inside the Albany. We've got such a big community. We were in the Albany within 5 minutes of me landing. I had the in to get in. And so, we went inside the Albany, and I just wanted to find out, I was told I was going to get met with military presence. Military, Sam.
Oh, scary.
I knew that wasn't true. You saw him scurrying with a little backpack, outside the Albany, if you saw that little clip.
So that was him.
I've been told it was him. I'm pretty sure. I think it was. Maybe somebody can dispute that, but I've asked several people, and several people said that they think that really was him. But of course, they got him in the grocery store, the little grocery store. They have him in there, a picture of him. I knew he didn't have security. If you looked at those pictures from the Daily Mail that were of his parents meeting up at the top floor at Penthouse, they look so stressed. By the way, they're constantly on the phone. There's no security up there with him. If they were really scared for his safety, they wouldn't have had him out there.
No way.
They had no threats. And what we did is we did the equivalent of we went down there and threw a digital sledgehammer through his window. That's what we did. We let him know, hey, we know you don't have security. We know also the only security they were leaning on was the Albany security. That was it. We know you got nobody up there except for your family or a couple of employees. We just want you to know, we're here to talk. Come and talk to us. I'll take a picture on your car. I'll do whatever I need to do to send the message hey, we're out here. And I gave him plenty of opportunity to tell his story. I was really hoping he would come talk and tell his story. And, there's a clip in one of our videos that we made on it where I tell him I'm on the phone with him or I'm texting him and I say something like, hey, Sam, the thing is, I'll come meet with you if you want to go to Albany or we can go somewhere else. Just don't tell someone where it is. People listen to that and they're like, well, why do you get to know where he stays and you don't want him to know where you're at? No, that's not what I was saying. I was trying to get him away from his parents.
Exactly.
Don't tell them where we're going to meet. That way he could maybe be honest. And it was his only chance. I mean, Sam's only chance out of this was to flip on his parents. And he has not done that to this point. And they've sold him up the river. So he's in a lot of trouble here. But I try to give him an opportunity to tell the truth about what's really going on. And, I gave extended. He said he would do it. Then he ended up not doing it. I was told it was actually he was trying to embarrass me or whatever, which I don't know if y'all see me on the internet. You can't embarrass me. So, it's just, it's a crazy thing. So that's why we went down there and did it. And we want to get the truth. And also, that's not all we did while we were down there. We also went down, we met with Lincoln Bain, an activist down there. We got a lot of records of, the real estate purchases and what was really going on. We visited a lot of their properties they had in that portfolio. We also went to Deltec Bank and we made a big deal there. I took a picture inside with the tether vault, which is pretty cool. Did you see that picture?
Yeah, I did. You were like... it's really funny. I liked it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. So my 3 favorite pictures I've ever had in crypto, the one with me, Wendy, Altcoin Daily, and Tom Schultz and Justin Sun at the Warren Buffett after party that I posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago. That from 2019. And then I have a picture with me with Dorian Nakamoto, who people thought was Satoshi. When people see the personalization or the visualization of who Satoshi is, they'll see this Asian man. It's not him. But that was kind of an iconic moment for me to take a picture with him. And then this one taken with a tether vault. It's a really cool freaking picture.
Yeah, I remember when you were down in the Bahamas, there were so many things going on and people were hating on you. But I was actually very, I was giving you props. I was like, let's go Bitboy, because at least someone got off their freaking tushy instead of, going on Twitter and saying, boo-hoo, Bitboy this and boo-hoo, Sam that. He stole this and stole that. You got up, you put on a nice shirt, you went down to the Bahamas and you started really investigating. Now, why do you think after you got his personal number, someone gave you his number, you started texting him, why do you think he left you on scene for that long? And why do you think he agreed to an interview at all if he was just going to go on a press tour anyway? Or do you think you pushed him to do the press tour?
Well, it is interesting when you look at the timing, right? I mean, we do know he did meet with he did the deal books thing with the New York Times. That was set up for him to be a softball interview. But it was on the heels of me being there that he started agreeing to do all these different segments, all these different, Good Morning America. He did the Spaces with Mario,
They're so
several
funny.
other people. Yeah. And so a lot of those questions I got asked in that, by the way, a lot of those came from me. Randy even said, some of the questions came from me. I wasn't going to go in there. I didn't want to go in there and give Sam the satisfaction of like, oh, Bitboy's in here and he's not talking to him. I just didn't want to give him that. So I got some questions answered asked. He didn't answer any questions. But what happens is we go down there and I text him. I sent him a few texts and I message him on Signal. And it's interesting. If you look at the last text message I sent him before he responded through iMessage, it was telling him, hey, I know your parents are behind this. Like, I just want you to come talk. Like, I know they kept you doped up on uppers. I know they brainwashed you growing up. Let's tell your side of the story. That was actually the last message I sent him. And then he responded on Signal from that. It was very, very, very strange. Maybe he didn't see it. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he never checked his iMessage. I think that's probably pretty.
Yeah, that's BS.
That's probably BS.
Yeah.
And so, I'm at a poker game. We're playing poker. It's Sunday night, Monday morning. It's like 2 a.m. I'm crushing the poker game. I got lucky on a couple of hands, playing with ice bags and his brothers and stuff. And it had a lot of fun there. And, I get this text at 2 a.m. and it's like, holy crap, Sam just texted me back. I couldn't believe it. And so did you see the screenshots?
Yes, I was reading them. I even put them on my
strange.
daily show because I had to let it all out.
Yeah, it was it's a very strange line.
And he asked you, one of the things I thought was so incredibly strange was when he asked you, if you were in my position, what would you do? Why would he even ask that question to you when you're actually trying to get answers out of him? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's because he really does still think he's in Catch Me If You Can, and he's trying to find an angle to get himself out of it. There's no angle, and that's what I told him. I said, Sam, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I would do. I'm not the CEO. Doesn't matter what you would do. You're not the CEO. What matters is that you show remorse and that you actually give people closure and answers. You're not fixing this. This is not your fight anymore. I know you think it is. You're not going to come up with the money. You've never even raised that much money in your life. You raised $1.7 billion in your entire life. You're saying you're going to raise $8 billion overnight. Doesn't really make sense. Get that out of your mind and let's move forward. Let's have the conversation, figure out how we prevent this from happening again. That's the only closure that you can really give to people. And he refuses to do that. And so what I was told, we've got someone close to his camp. And what I was told is he agreed to do an interview with me basically to embarrass me because I went down there. And of course, I put out, the pinned tweet, he said he's going to do one with me, blah, blah, blah. That was a big setup. He was never going to do one for me. He wanted to hurt my ego. If you look at that point B in the first message he sent me, there's a very key point in there where he says, I admire your passion, blah, 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 blah. He goes, now, I totally disagree with you on some things, including your stance on regulation. He knows my stance on regulation because he saw my bill. He's against decentralization. That's the problem. He's for centralization, for privatizing crypto for himself and his own gain, and he's against the free market of decentralization and crypto. That is such a key component because people have to understand when you really find out that it was my bill triggered, it was the sending of my bill that triggered this entire thing. I don't know where we'd be if such a long twisted story. It starts several years ago when somebody was looking for a champion in crypto to move towards regulation. Somebody started watching my channel and thought I was the person. And that leads to where now I'm doing bills and I'm working with Washington. He's got Washington for several years waiting for the right moment to strike. If that doesn't happen, then I don't write this bill. I don't know if anybody else writes this bill. It doesn't get sent. I don't know where we're at today. I don't, FTX might still be functioning because
and covering up, getting Voyager that was just about to close before you said something. So yeah, there would have been a whole rabbit hole. Then they would have gotten Celsius. They would have gotten it all.
Yeah, well, and then you've got more people exposed down the road to when it does go insolvent. So look, people can say what they want. Like, oh, well, you wouldn't have done that. Then everybody still have their money. Like, no, you still couldn't have all gone and withdrawn your money. It just, the scam would have gone on for a little bit longer. And you probably would end up losing more. What if it happened during the bull run and you end up losing, 7 figures instead of 5 figures, whatever the case may be. So the whole thing is it's just such a weird, interesting turn of events that got us to where we were at here. And it's been personal between me and Sam, from the very beginning, he tried to steal one of my political backers. That's what started this entire thing unraveling. And so his very key point, he says there, though, I disagree on regulation. That is basically him admitting, head to head, I disagree with you. And I know what you think about it. And we were working against your viewpoint of regulation. And so people say, oh, he didn't know who I was. No, that's not true, guys, at all. That is not true. It's been personal since day one. As soon as I found out what he was doing, and he tried to steal one of my people from me. And he was never going to give me that interview. He wanted, people know I've got a big ego. It's no secret here. I'm humble in many senses. If you meet me in person, I'm very nice, I'm humble, whatever. But obviously I do have a big ego. So, the thing is he knew he could try to hurt that ego by lifting me up, making it seem like I was going to get it, and then rug pull it, and then giving it to everybody else without giving it to me. He has vendettas. If you look at the way he's operating, look at what he said with CZ. CZ said today on Twitter, hey, remember when, the buyout didn't happen or did happen, whatever it was. Remember, Sam, you sent me all those text messages saying you were going to try to destroy me.
Yes, he did say that this morning. Go CZ. I was like, yes. Oh my gosh, drama.
Vindictive. He's vindictive. And you saw that in the business practices against Reef, against ICP, against New Genesis, against Casper, against several of these projects. He's got a very mean streak to him to where he wants to hurt people. And so, he's diabolical in a lot of ways. So that's why it didn't surprise me at all. Look, did I think he was going to do it when he first admitted to it? That he was going to do it? Yeah, I did, because then he unblocked me on Twitter. I'm still unblocked to this day. You can go and check the times. He unblocked me in real time on the text message. And so, I don't know. I thought I was going to get it. And then as soon as I saw he had agreed to do one with Mario first, I knew. Yeah. I'm no dummy. I'm not a spring chicken here. I knew that was a message to me, that he wasn't going to give it to me. So he wouldn't give me the satisfaction, but it's okay. My satisfaction is going to come from this not happening again in crypto. My satisfaction is going to come from getting all the answers to the questions that I'm going to get answered one way or the other through some other sources, not necessarily reporters. People pick up one, put it down there, and he's still going to have to answer them. At the end of the day, he's going to have to atone for what he did.
Absolutely. I'm surprised that we haven't heard more from courts, people trying to extradite him from the Bahamas. None of it's even happening. I think, a lot of people I heard that even someone filing a report against Sam would help the situation. And not one was filed yet, which is a little suspect. Maybe people were suppressed when they did try to file, because I'm sure someone was affected by this. I'm sure someone in the Bahamas doesn't agree with what he's doing. So the fact that nothing happened on there is pretty intense. He also has the people, Maxine, calling him out on Twitter saying, hey, we want you to come to court. And he's like, I'm not ready yet because woo-woo, boo-boo, I'm Sam. Do you think he's going to step foot in the U.S. on December 13th for a hearing?
Well, I spoke with someone about 3 weeks ago that's very, very close. That I would say it's a name that if you've been following this, people would know that's associated with FTX. And I've been messaging back and forth with this person a few times here and there. And I was basically trying to figure out if this person thought I could go down there to the Bahamas and get an interview with him. So this was before we actually went down there. And the response was, I don't know, maybe. He's completely unpredictable. And so when you apply that to this situation, I would like to tell you there's 0% chance he steps foot in America right now. I can't imagine a scenario where he's ballsy enough. He told me in that text message, he's a wimp. He said he doesn't like spicy food. He's a wimp. So to imagine him to have the balls to show up at one of these hearings, it's unfathomable that his lawyer would let him do that now that he's got a high-powered lawyer. But Sam could fire the lawyer and show up. You just don't know what he'll do. So I'm not going to say 100% sure that he won't be there. If he does show up there, I don't see any way he doesn't get detained while he's here, because you can't let him leave again. You can't let him leave and go out of the country once he's here. So once Sam comes back to America, he's stuck. So I don't think he's going to. I wonder if there's some smoke and mirrors going on right now. If he's trying to get out of the country still, Dubai won't take him, Hong Kong won't take him. I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe go live on his yacht in the international waters. Maybe I don't know. He does have a marina right there in the Albany that he can't escape through, but he just ain't got anywhere to go. So I don't think he'll show up at the hearings. I think these hearings will mostly center around Gary Gensler and the SEC's failure of their dereliction of duty to create a regulatory environment that would allow an exchange like FTX to actually register here and know what's, or Nexo to register here. So I think that's going to be a big calling on the carpet for those folks. But I can tell you that if Sam does show up for this, it's not going to be good for him.
No, that's when stuff is going to get real.
Oh, yeah.
He's
not going to be able to hide from Congress like he hides from reporters.
No, I hope not. And I wish they would call him out for lying, under oath as it was, saying that he wasn't using customer funds, because that's something that nobody is bringing up, that he lied already. Mm-hmm. I really hope that, everyone out there could get some sort of closure, that we get some real answers instead of, him like sitting like this and going, I don't know, and I knew stuff and you knew stuff, but we didn't all know one thing and this and that. I'm sick of hearing it. I can't listen to him anymore. I can't listen to any more interviews. I want answers. I want real things to go down and us to honestly see some repercussions.
Yeah.
Just like if it was anybody else, if it wasn't these people's kid, if he didn't have that much political influence with donations, he would have been behind bars by now. But even if he goes behind bars, is he really going to be behind bars? You know what I mean? Or is he going to be like, he gets out of it?
Let me tell you what you don't do. You don't embarrass politicians. When you embarrass politicians, they turn on you and they eat you alive. Mm-hmm. Sam has embarrassed so many people. And this is, people say, how high up does this go? I love talking about this, right? Because a lot of people, they assume, right, who's the big evil people in the Democratic Party? Everybody, the Clintons, right? People assume the Clintons are behind this. Clintons are not behind this, guys. You want to know how you know? This blew up in everybody's faces. That's how you know. The Clintons, anything that they ever have been involved in, it always works out very clean and very smooth. There's not a big gigantic scandal that comes out because they cover things up very well or, whatever. Guys, this is all sloppy amateur hour. Is what this was. When people find out how sloppy Dan Friedberg was, how sloppy the parents were, how sloppy SBF was, and all this was not a super complex, scheme that had been going on for, 10 years planned. This was just a bunch of stupid people doing some stupid stuff for political power, and they didn't really know what they were getting into. And when it blew up, Maxine Waters is so freaking pissed at Sam. Yes, there's a picture of her maybe blowing a kiss to him 6 months ago. Yeah, she took some money from him. Yeah, so
a lot of other people, yeah.
A lot of, including Republicans. But the Republicans, they got their money through Ryan Salame is another guy involved in FTX. But they were funneling money in different ways to different organizations because Sam said, well, I didn't want to look like I was giving money to Republicans because that would have looked bad.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah, he did say that. He did say that. He said it would make him look bad to give money to Republicans. So he did it through another employee. So, but the point is that when you really look at how this happened, these politicians, if I didn't know FTX was a scam 3 months ago, and nobody else in crypto pretty much knew FTX was a scam 3 months ago, how could you expected the politicians to know there was an actual scam? They just thought they were getting big political donations from somebody that was super liberal and wanted to help them and was running a crypto exchange. They did not know that this was what it was. If they would have known, I don't know what they would have and would have not taken. But Maxine Waters even said some of this money might have to go back. Some of these political donations might end up being completely fraudulent and have to be given back. And a lot of these politicians now, they're rushing to give the money away to charity so they don't have to do it. Uh-huh. Which, is whatever. It's not like, what are you going to do? Give it back to Sam? I guess it's customer funds. So. Maybe that would be the right move. But ultimately, these people feel burnt because when you're in a picture with the world's biggest fraud in history, that don't make you look good.
Nope.
And you're pissed. And so that was his cardinal sin. And that's why he's ultimately going to end up going down, is because of the embarrassment. Doesn't matter how much money he gave him. None of that goodwill exists anymore because that money's all fraudulent. People know it, and it's stolen money from customer funds. No one feels good about that money that he gave them at this point. So they're going to come full blow after him.
I hope so. And maybe Kevin O'Leary will have some, heart and let some of his 15 milli go to the customers or donate to something, because a lot of people got paid off. And Kevin O'Leary, oh my God, his tweets are so ridiculous. It makes me laugh. Oh yeah, like I would help. I would invest in someone that had catastrophic failures. My butt, you totally not. Like you're lying. It's crazy. And he got called out on CNBC, and he was like, oh, they were asking him, did you know the relationship between FTX and Alameda? He's like, oh well, I didn't know that. That's not true. And you're innocent until proven guilty. Like, okay, Kevin, we're going to have to see what happens. What do you think is going to happen, especially going from here, being that you do have your funding now? Your bill is going to be on the road soon, going to be made public. You'll be able to have the public's help, the community's help and initiative behind your initiative. So where do you think that's going, and where do you think SBF is going from here?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people believe that, regulation now is going to be horrible for crypto, and that, they're going to come down super hard and blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's true, actually. I think that the best thing for crypto is getting rid of SBF, getting his hands out of the regulation. That was the best thing.
Absolutely.
He is now seen as so toxic that anything he was pushing for, they don't want anymore, which was the opposite of what I am pushing with my bill, which plays very well. And when people find out what our bill is later this month, they are going to love it. The crypto community is probably 85% of people are going to love it, and 15% of people are probably going to say, Bitboy wrote it, so it sucks, even though it's really great. That's probably what it's going to be, right?
Of course.
Everybody's going to be behind this idea. This is an idea that tons of people have had, and I talked about it on my channel for a long time. The bill was actually written from language I used in my videos for years. And so this is something that's been very well thought out. And of course, there will be tweaks to it going forward. Nothing goes through as originally constructed in the world of politics, but we're going to make sure it's protected in a way to where it has the integrity and philosophy of crypto at its heart, right? Which is consensus and agreement and having a voice and getting a seat at the table. These are the things that we care about, that we just have a say. People in crypto need to have a say with the future of the space. We don't need Elizabeth Warren or Brad Sherman or Sherrod Brown, people who don't know anything about crypto, coming out trying to make the regulation. There's never been a bigger neon sign, a walking billboard for decentralization than what we just saw with centralization in SBF and FTX. This, to me, is going to open the door to smart crypto regulation, to where everybody's going to take a step back and say, you know what? If we could not see what was happening here with FTX, and it was so close to us and right in front of us, we got to find people to make these decisions that could see that. We don't understand this at all, actually. That's what the politicians have to admit. They have to admit, we don't understand this at all.
Thank you.
We need to get people in that do understand to help guide and make those decisions. That's the only way this is going to work, to where we're not going to stifle innovation in America. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think I believe my bill is going to pass. I do believe it's going to pass. I believe it's going to change everything in the world of crypto regulation. And I think that we're all going to be okay. I think it's not going to be perfect, because obviously we don't necessarily want regulation at all, but we got to have it. When you look at FTX, Gary Gensler, if he would have done his job and created some regulation and some clarity, then maybe FTX could have been registered here, and maybe they actually would have been able to get monitored, the money, and it would have never got this bad. Maybe it was still going to be a scam at some point, but maybe not. Maybe they would have played by the rules. So once again, we go back to the number one person who lost people money in crypto is Gary Gensler. He's the one that did not do his job. We're going to get Gary Gensler out, hopefully by the end of January, get a new SEC commissioner in, get my bill going forward, creating a new landscape in the world of crypto regulation. And, we're all going to move forward together. It's going to be exciting. I'm pumped. I think it's going to be a good few months coming up here.
I'm pumped too. And I'm pumped for you, man. And I'm happy to see, especially we met a few years back in person. I remember the first time we ever met, and you were such a nice guy. And I was just like, you know what? You supported me and I supported you. And now I'm seeing you just you're at 1 million followers on Twitter. You're such a cool kid now, and you're really fighting the good fight. So I commend you so much. I also wanted you to shout out for a moment your new book. I'm going to drop a link to it in the live chat, but can you expand on what's in this book, why it's important, and essentially when it's going to be released? I believe is it pre-order now or regular order?
Yes, it's pre-order right now. And just so people know, we're doing a video this weekend. It'll be out. We're giving all the dates for our book tour. So we're doing a book tour at the end of January, beginning of February, and then a couple more dates at the end of February. You got to have a pre-order. You get a pre-order on Amazon, to be able to come to the meetup and, get your book signed, talk Q&A, whatever we're going to do. We're going to have fun at these meetups. We got the dates coming out this weekend. We're doing, I think, 14 cities, including London. So we're really excited about that. So the book itself is called Catching Up to Crypto, and it's really self-explanatory. If you have ever felt like you were left out in crypto, this is going to catch you up. If you have ever heard a story, a major thing, whether it was Silk Road or Mt. Gox, and you're like, what really was that? You're going to learn that. You're going to get that perspective of the history of what money is, what led to digital money, how, the cypherpunks created, crypto, created Bitcoin, how this turned into all these other altcoins, the major players, what was going on in the beginning with, all these different exchanges. We're going to look at the major altcoins, what's Cardano, what's XRP. We're going to talk about trading a little bit, talk about Bitcoin mining, what is blockchain, Bitcoin halving, the cycles, everything. It's all expansive. And then we look at the future of NFTs and metaverse and, stuff like that as well. And then like how you can take next steps. What we found is we have our own bitlabacademy.com. We've rebranded it. It's awesome now. But when we first started, what we found is our beginner content was way above people's heads. It was way above what an actual beginner is. What this book does is this takes someone from hearing about crypto and deciding they want to get interested in it to becoming someone that actually gets it and understands it to the point where they can go do an academy or they can go watch any YouTube video and kind of have a good understanding of what's happening, or listen to people talk about crypto who've been in it forever and not have their head swim. You're going to be caught up. You're going to get the benefit of my 10 years, in crypto without actually you having to go back in time over those 10 years. And, I've had one person read it so far, just passed it out to one person, loved it, thought it was phenomenal, serves exactly the purpose of the book. So we're really excited about it. We're probably on the way to being a bestseller, right now with the numbers. It prints January 12th. So you get a stocking stuffer, for, your family. Check out the book tour. If you go to bitboycrypto.com and click book, in the top menu, it'll take you down there. You can actually go ahead and see the dates.
Awesome. So I just put the link in the live chat. Also in the description of the video is all of Bitboy's links, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. I believe Around the Blockchain is probably still on right now if you head over to Bitboy's channel. And also Around the Blockchain, make sure to subscribe to their new channel because Around the Blockchain, which I'm on pretty often, is going to be on its own independent channel on January 2nd. So make sure you guys watch out for that and support Around the Blockchain because they bring on a ton of creators. Always good news. DZ's a great host. So shout out to DZ, the model. So thank you, Bitboy, for coming on the show again. I really appreciate you and I support you, man. Everyone in this chat does support you too. So thank you again for the chat, for hanging out with me today. I'll be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern with the Daily Zest, breaking down the news for you guys. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, share it out with friends. Comment after this show is over. Let me know where you think SBF is headed. Is he going behind the bars? Is he just going to chill out in the Bahamas and sip a pina colada? Tell me your thoughts. Let me know. Have a great weekend, everyone. Have a happy Friday. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.